Okay. So, everyone here just for food. We are going to talk about PWA with Angular, and it's going to be an introductory talk. So, if you already have some experience with it, you can help me answer questions in the end. And I work at Yambit as a software architect, doing front-end stuff, working with Angular for quite, and now also Java. And we are going to talk about first PWA, all the marketing, the hype, and then the tech part of it, and how do we use these applications, how we can install it, how we can make them work offline, and how we can do everything in Angular, and then see some decisions that could help you in when to use it, when to not use it. And we will begin with PWA part now. This will be split in two parts. First, we will try to cover the buzzword, the hype, the marketing of it, and then we will see what is the actual little bit of technology that's causing all this hype. So the definition is that PWAs are like just your website which try to use these modern web capabilities, and you can then deliver a native app like user experience. I don't know if the native app itself has a good experience, but you can have those kind of things that native application usually. So whenever you hear PWA word being tossed around, it is usually being sold to you as some kind of quality stamp. Like when somebody is talking about PWA, they are not actually trying to communicate with you the technical part, but they want to sell you an idea and experience what you can expect from their product and so on. And technical part of it is for the developers, which we will come next. So just to quote the people who named it, it's considered like a toolkit of features, so it's not just some one thing that you can check on caniuseit.com, is it supported or not. There are a lot of features come together, and then they give you this progressive web application experience. And to quote the other person who named it, it's just some brand name made for your boss and your investor and your marketing person, and you need to be careful which is being used when. So the main idea behind a progressive web application is the progressive keyword itself, which is based on the idea of progressive enhancement, which basically means that you should always guarantee a set of core features that you want to deliver your clients or your users. And then based on the context, based on the resources, based on the hardware, browser, and so on, you could improve the experience of the remaining users. And that's basically the idea behind progressive, that you slowly add on top of the experience, and some people get much better experience, but everybody gets something. And when you do this using web technologies, then you call this experience together as progressive web applications. So if the marketing part, all that doesn't matter, then this is how it usually looks like. So you go to any website, you get an option to install it, and then you will have it on your home screen like it was any other app. It looks and feels like any other app, but the thing here is that you are not using any third-party framework or language, Cordova and so on. It's all pure web technologies and no extra extensions and so on. And there are a lot of benefits to it. The most important one that I like is that you can completely cut down all the power play that happens around app stores and so on, and just use the open nature of the web. So the advantage, disadvantage of it depends on your use case, but that's the benefit. And second is the application size gets really, really small. So I put down the size of at least the two of them that I use, and you can compare the size, like really, really small. And this has, of course, a lot of benefits in terms of fast rendering and hitting the market with smaller storage phones and so on. And I have attached that here. It's all in terms of business and money, so I had no desire to put it here. So, and since they are applications usually work offline. So something it's just like page, and that's also what they allow you to do. And this is like a really big hype train. There are a lot of companies already trying to make advantage of it, and yeah, you see most of them have like very diverse user base, and then they try to focus. Some of them also have native apps and PWAs and try to use this brace that PWA brings to like engage more users towards their services. And you can find a lot of here on this side. This is just some random site I added here. There is no official PWI store committee. And so what do we, depends on whom are you going to ask. If you ask somebody in marketing or trying to sell you their product, they are going to tell you lots and lots of things. Oh, it has to be responsive, and you should be able to install. It looks, look and feel like an app, and so on and so on and so on. But as a developer, I want to focus on just the smallest possible thing I can do, and then go home. That is somehow make this app-like feeling to your website and PWA. And that's first requirement is that it should be secure origin. Second is that there should be some kind of installation information that we saw adding on the home screen and so on, and to provide some kind of offline capabilities. App data and see something on the screen when your internet is down. Secure origin, I think you know already. It should be local HTTPS or localhost for purposes of development. Ask somebody who is good in security. I'm just a front-end developer. Don't ask me hard questions. And then there's something called Web App Manifest, which we will talk about later, which gives this installation information. And something called Serviceworker, which gives this offline capability, which we are going to talk about later, or now. So first is this Web App Manifest thing, which talks about how you can install, how you can provide some metadata to your website that makes it installable. Yeah, it's a metadata for PWA. It is just some JSON file where you put some name and icons kind of details, and then it just does its magic, and you get a manifest file that you just need to put it in your index.html with rel manifest. And let's see how it looks like. So usually you have a lot of properties here. Important ones are like name. When you try to install PWA, this is how where it goes. Your name is prompted on top, and then there are lists of icons for different places, like when you're prompting, when it's on home screen, and so on. So I just added one because, yeah, you get the idea. You put the size and the icon. And then once it's installed, when you try to open it, there's this splash screen thingy that you will see, like you see usually in any app, where you have possibility to color the status bar and give it some background color, and your icon in the center, and again show the name of your app, and so on. And then on your home screen, you usually have another name, like short name, which you use it for the icon, your icon name, and again your icon is shown there. But the good part is you kind of don't really need any of that to know You can just go on many of these websites and just like auto-generate it. How do I make a full screen? And F11. Full screen. Okay. Yeah, and then you kind of done with the installation part. There are a lot of properties to it, like you might want to redirect user from PWA to your native app and so on, but those are not the core required fields that you need to put in. And then we are on the second part, which was giving it some offline capabilities. And that's where the concept of service worker comes in. And service workers is a new spec which kind of acts like a network proxy that's between your web application and the network. And once it's there, all the requests pass through the service worker, and then you are able to do your offline and whatever stuff you want to do. It's programmable, so it depends on what you're doing. And yeah, and then since it is between the network and the application, it's a pretty good place to do all your caching related logic. But some facts that you need to know is that it runs in its own thread, separate from UI. So even if your page is closed, it could still function. And there is some life cycle it has that we could use to take advantage of what we want to do when. And let's start with life cycles then. So first you have nothing. Then you register your service worker like this in your index HTML. And once you are done with this registration part, then we start with the process of the whole installation and so on and so on. No, don't go there. Yeah, I messed it up there. So this, yeah, I can't fix it right now. So first is the installation process. What you want to do here is you want to listen, when this events happen, you want to cache everything that you need immediately, like your fonts, your main.js, main CSS, your fav icon, and things like that. And once you have fetched everything successfully, your installation is successful, and if any of the file fails, you go into the error process, or error happens, and once you reload the page, it's tried out again. And the same process happens. So if you screwed up one file that gives 404, then it's never going to be installed. And then once you are successfully done with the installation process, then it becomes active. And once it's active, the very first thing that you want to do is clean out some cache. Some previous service worker might have been there, and you don't want to hog on the user storage and so on. And once you are done with this, one of the most important life cycle that happens is the termination part. A browser has the capability or allowed to kill your service worker anytime. But usually they don't do it because they want to batch it for some time. You might have like 50 events happening in few seconds, and they don't want to shut down and restart like 50 times in few seconds. So that's when this is idle, waiting for things. But apart from that, a browser can kill a service worker anytime. So this is important because you cannot store any kind of state within the service worker logic. Because you kill it, and when it starts, it's gone, and you are starting fresh. And yeah, you could also kill it when it notices that it's taking a lot of resources or some infinite loop running on, and this could help you from Bitcoin mining. And this is like the most important event that probably there are push notifications and background syncs and so on, but we want to focus here on like the minimum part, and then the minimum is that you want to cache something, basic something to make it offline, something on the screen. And what you can do is you can listen to the fetch events, and you can then implement different caching strategies. So before we jump into caching strategies, you might know that browsers already have their cache. And in context with Serviceworker, this is how it works. So Serviceworker comes before the browser cache. Every request that you have will now go via Serviceworker, and then based on whatever you program, go to the network or take it from the cache, or always return some fixed response. It's up to you. And once Serviceworker does not find something in its cache, and it forwards it to network, then what happens is whatever would have happened if Serviceworker was not there. That's like if you have cache control headers in your browser, it will just respect that. It's not going to bypass something and hit the network, hit the server, even if there was some cache control one day or whatever. And that's pretty much how it works. The request goes here, found in the cache, go back. Otherwise, follow your browser caching strategies, then your browser will now either return it from the disk or go to the network. And the difference here with the Serviceworker caching and the browser is that you can have full control here. You can program what you want, not the browser cache so much. Here is what you want to do, your programmatic front-end logic. The most important thing you should know is that browser caching is, if you end up making cache control really long, then it's not going to hit, it will still return it from the browser caching. And then once we are done with, there are two important caching strategies we want to talk. One is the network first. That means your Serviceworker will first go to your network, and whatever happens, maybe you were offline, or maybe there was some error, maybe there was some timeout based on your logic. And when that happens, then it will just take the version from the cache and then return it back to the page. So the idea here is to focus on the freshness of the data. What you want is to always try to get what's the latest, and then in worst case, show something anyways. And this is all some pseudo code to give you some idea. It's not even going to compile. And so you go to your network, and then if some cache error happens, you return it from the cache. And the second is called stale while revalidate. So this is where you return some stale data, which is like there for quite a bit, and so on. And once user is consuming that data, in background you can go to the network, and then you can update the cache. So the benefit here is the performance is really good. You immediately return something, so there is something to see on the screen, and then in the next version the data is fresh anyways. So it's not going to work for like some stock market thing where you want to show some real live data, but for simple things like you show the article and then update the article. So if some user reloads the page, you have updated version. So you still give this snappy, fast performance. And that's pretty much it to do. We can focus on service workers for now. There are much more caching strategies, but are not relevant for an intro. And then we try to get into Angular and how to do Angular, all the service workers, the manifest, and so on and so on. And now the easiest thing to do is code. So So we try to create a new project. So this was it. We create a minimal project, ng new PWA demo, and then we switch to the directory, and then we open it in IntelliJ, because I was working with IntelliJ all the day, and I don't want to switch my IDE context while presenting. Nope. And then we wait for the npm install to happen. It will happen anytime. And I don't know what to do right now, so we are all awkwardly going to wait for it and try to make it as painful as it could be. So I'm going to switch root. Yeah, everyone who is not in front end should know how painful. So yeah, just wait. Wait and watch. Someday, yeah, it's still happening. Here, I have a shortcut for it. Wait, one more. Because now IntelliJ is going to do the indexing. Oh? No one likes dogs. Yeah. Okay, we have something. Now let's try to start it. npm start. We can, of course, analytics. We can also, I think, meanwhile build the prod version too. Oh wait, we were done with the npm install, yay. So we have the prod version running here, nothing special about it. Done. Now let's just this PWA demo. And nothing in here. And there. Nothing. And now we try the next step. So then we do the magic. We just stop all this. Let's see now. What is this ng-add about? What? What does ng-add? ng-add is the schematics that are provided by Angular, and it kind of automates things for you. So they will take care of installing the packages and adding something to your config, Angular JSON, and generating the extra files that you need, and so on and so on. So they kind of hide the complexity out of developer.
So it does everything you need to set up PWA with Angular, right?
You will see.
It's worth mentioning that next time you want to add a dependency to your project, do ng-add instead of npm install or yarn add, because then if the library has any schematics that are Angular specific, they will run. If it doesn't, they'll just add it like a normal dependency to your project. But if it has some Angular magic, CLI magic, that will run and set up things for you. So
I think works really well for material at least. I hate adding it here and then CSS here and then importing module there. Just yeah, ng add angular/material and it's done. So whatever it takes to do minimum amount of work. So now first let's see. We have a lot of files generated here. The manifest you might already know. And then some icons and then some files that were updated. We are going to talk about them in a bit, but let's try to do the thingy again. Yeah, I tried to make it faster with Bazel, but nothing worked, so I'm back to Webpack. And now let's try to host everything again. And then we try to Z. Ooh, and you can install it. Yeah, that's it. We are done. Yeah, but yeah, you see, you have some manifest file here. It's template, so it just vomits a template for you. You can always change it, but yeah, it gives you a decent template with all the theming and icons that you want to change and so on. And you have one service worker that's running. And apart from that, you have some kind of basic caching also running, which is caching all the important first files that you need to run your application. So we are done with the PWA part, we're done with the build part, and then we are done with the whole thing. Yeah, so yeah, it does everything in one command. And but let's go through the changes that it made. So let's try to unmagicify some of the magic and going through the files. So let's first go to the files that were generated, all the icons. These are the template icons you need to replace with whatever your brand logo is. And apart from that, we saw the manifest. The same things happening. Like we saw the theme color, the short name, the list of icons, and so on and so on. And apart from that, there's this config file, which we are going to talk in a bit, and then is NGSW stand for Angular Service Worker config. So using this, you can somehow configure your service worker to match your caching requirements and so on. And apart from that, there were some files that were updated. Yeah, so manifest were added to your assets. And apart from that, service worker was enabled through for your app, and the path for the ND service worker config file was set, and some analytics grab. And apart from that, then let's go to index.html. What index.html? Yeah, your manifest was added, and there was one more meta line called theme color was added, and this is usually used by browsers to change the color of the address bar in your mobile. It may be important for branding, I don't know, but it's there. And one of the scores for PWA is also that you should show something if there is no JavaScript. So it also follows the best practice and adds this text there. So switching context, next file. PWA was added, service worker was added, nothing here special. Package lock, anybody wants to go with this? And apart from that, yeah, this was the most important thing that happens in your project. So something is important from your module for service worker is imported. And then your service worker.js file is registered, but it's enabled only in production mode. And one thing you would notice about the service worker.js file is that it's not here. It's none of it either got added and somehow it just becomes available. That's because When you build it in production mode, it's in your dist. So, and so is the NGSW JSON based on whatever config you had. We will talk it in a moment. And yeah, so what we not to know about Angular PWAs now, apart from the fact that you just need one line to get everything, and then call yourself saving the day. And so this is a one-size-fits-all approach. As of now, it's not extensible, so they provide you a bunch of logic. It's smart. They are trying to do a lot of stuff, trying to handle as many places as you can shoot yourself, and give you some big generic solution and ability to configure it via this config file. And yeah, so you configure it with the config file, whatever things you want to cache, how long you want to cache, and things like that. But the important thing you should know that is enabled in production builds only. And that's because if you will end up developing with cached versions of the file. And they kind of take this whole approach of we have tested everything, we have done everything, this is where you put it, and then you can just rely on us and then use it in the production. So let's go through this file that was generated, and which is here. So basically I haven't really done much thing to this slide. What I have done is taken over this JSON schema, copy pasted in JSON schema to TypeScript, and then pasted it here to give you more readable format, because I like TypeScript. And going through this file one by one, this is pretty much all that you can do here, and this is pretty much only place where you want to edit, modify something related to Angular Serviceworker. You have app data. So every time you update your application, you might want to tell your user what this update contains. And this is a free JSON. You can just dump something there. Updated colors, or updated this, updated fav icon, or whatever it is. Your index is always going to be index.html unless you are trying something weird, and I don't know what to do then. And apart from that, you have two big groups. One is asset groups, and one is a data group. Asset groups is where you give a configuration of how to cache the static assets for you, be it yours or be it third party. I think you all know prefetch and lazy load already. And the install mode, this is the place where the event life cycles happen. Like install mode, prefetch means it is going to prefetch everything that you mentioned during the installation period, during the install event of the service worker. And if you put it lazy, then it will, during the fetch, it will fetch it and will put it in the cache, and then it will use it for the next time. And apart from that, the other important thing is data group, because it also allows you the possibility to cache your own APIs or the third-party APIs. And this is mainly depends on the configuration that you provide here. One is the max age, how long you want to cache something, and then is max size, how many items you want to cache. So for example, if you cache like 100 items, and now is the 101th item, then it's going to use this least recently used approach. So one that was used the last is kicked out, and then is replaced by the latest one. And timeout is just how much patience you think your user has. If you think that, oh, taking more than 2 seconds, just fail it, doesn't matter, run it from the cache. And the timeout is also going to immediately return from the cache if you are offline. And apart from that, the navigation URL you will probably not change, but this is the place where you can define all the kind of weird URLs that you want to redirect user back to the home page, because you might be offline and your server might not be there to redirect you. And this is where you could configure all the weird URLs that, yeah, go back to index.html and your page is still there. how does it work? So first is that let's try to see the service worker file. Yeah. It would be fun someday to try to debug the whole thing, but yeah, not today. First is that your service worker rarely changes again because they kind of take the all-in approach, and then updates will usually happen when there is some change with the Angular, bug fixes or new features and so on. And apart from that, since it's not changing, it's usually just cached. But this is not part of Angular service worker itself, but as per the specification, even if your service worker file has a cache control header, it is going to be ignored if it is more than 1 day. So this is just a way to guarantee that after some period you will ultimately service worker that might have some fixes in it. And so we'll try to check how the whole updating things and so on work. So every time you open or reload an app, let's go to the network tab. The service worker will try to look for this file, ngsw.json, which we saw here. We slot the hash and all the things for your file, and then if it is found, it will check for the changes in this hash, changes in this config file, and then just fetch those changes. And it also provides a service worker update service where you can listen, and if you want to do some custom thing when your server is updated, when your app is updated, and so on. Yeah, and once there was an update, it will fetch those updates, put it in the cache, and the next time you reload, you have the updated version there. So you are one version behind, but since you have the update service, SW update service, you could do whatever you want, because you could listen to the event, you can ask the user to reload, or just tell them that next time when you are here, something would have changed, and so on. So how does this work? Where will we? Here. So we will try to reload this. And then it will check for this, the same hash that we saw there, and then if there was any change, then it would have fetched and cached it. We will try to make some change in a moment. And yeah, now let's try to check the whole process, how it works. So we will first go to the component, and then constructor, update, and what we want to do, available.subscribe console.log. And now we will try to make some update. That is body background color orange, and then yeah, it's a bot that failed and became a bot. So we build it. Anytime now, 92. Remove the differential. And let's first reload. Try to fetch something. This time you did not see in the console log because it also fetched the JavaScript files and then cached it. And when you reloaded it, now if you try to make some changes, you will also see the console log if I did not screw anything up. Green. So 92, yeah, fast. And now let's try to do something. And now we just wait. So it will try to make some network call. It makes the network call and then see it fetched some stuff, and then you saw in the console log some event and with some data. So, but basically you have programmatic control over when the update has arrived, and whatever you want to do from here is up to your requirement.
How do you apply the update then? My website green now?
You reload it.
Ah, just reload.
Yeah, but this is like I said, the event is in your hand. You could have just done reload directly from your code if you wanted, but usually the idea is the same. It will check for the changes. If there are some changes, it will fetch them. It will put them in the cache, and yeah, of course, the cache will be there when you reload. It follows the performance, the stale while revalidate approach. So it goes to the cache first, and then just returns everything else, then meanwhile goes to the network and puts everything in the cache. So we are one version behind, but this is very high performant, to say. And so how does the
If you put in your callback there and then subscribe instead of console log, if you put in window.href
yeah
/,
yeah yeah, so that's what I mean. It just gives you ability to listen to the update, and then it's programmatic, is whatever you would like to do. So at least the tutorials I saw, they try to give you this material toast notification that some update has happened, and then also tell your user what we could do is we could go in here, we could have app data, and then put it again. Reload. Yeah, so you can put some, just show to you. And what happens next? So the really important things that you need to know in case you screwed up something, and that is, there's a self-destruct mode that you could use, and you could just burn everything down. So this NGSW JSON config that we saw, it tries to fetch on every reload. If it's not found, if the status 404, it will clean all the cache, it will unregister the service worker, and it will work like a regular website. So yeah, they took in mind also when you fuck up and you want to fix something. So like we see here, we go in the application tab, we have a service worker now. Let's see, I don't we could delete, where's the delete? Delete it. And we could try to reload now. Yeah, everything is gone. And yeah, your service worker is on deleted state. All the menus and everything that you see will gone, and here must be 404. Kill switch they provide you in case you want to just get rid of everything. And again, based on the progressive enhancement idea, still give user the core functionality they would have had anyways. And the second thing, well, let me add this back. Is it here?
That's still the extra reload you need to do before you get to the original live version.
Yes, because makes the call to the NGS config only on the reload. So you reload, it fetches, it's not there, then it will destroy everything. So do it again. There's going to be a lot of silence in the YouTube video. Do we have everything again or not? Thing called NGSW bypass. This is something you can pass in your request header or query parameter if there is some specific API that you don't want to cache. Maybe you have /API/score and /API/score/live, and you don't want to cache the live one, and then you can just pass it using the header. So, what do we have now? Did I start? Of course not. See, it was not a PWA, so it did not work offline. We have the PWA, and what we can do is we can try to make it offline and still get something. And now what we can do is we can just do the ng bypass, and it's offline. Because everything, queries that go via ng bypass, it will just skip over the whole check in the cache and the return it and so on logic. And that's pretty much it to know about the basic Angular PWI stuff. But yeah, you might be wondering that if really that fast and that quick, that easy to do with Angular, then why aren't we doing it for everything? Or why are we having native apps or starting a new fight if native apps are better than this or that, and so kind of things, which depends on what we discussed, that these are just the web technologies. They can do everything that web technologies can do, but they can only do what a web technology can do. So you have to understand this limitation, what web technology can do, will it fit your use case, and so on, especially if you're trying to access hardware from the user. So if you want to write an SMS app, you can't do it with PWAs because the but use WhatsApp and so on. So yeah, so just keep in mind that these are still all web technologies, no extra plugin or extension or some things like that. And apart from that, there's no need to fire your app developers and so on, because native applications can still give you better performance than a web application. Don't want to talk about WebAssembly because I don't know. And yeah, the user experience for native applications are still better for a lot of things. And also PWAs struggle a lot when it comes to iOS, Apple iOS. Like the push notification does not work that well. And there are a lot of blogs that rant on how Apple is keeping the web from moving forward and extreme opinions and so on. And in the end, it's still a web application. You have to keep in mind all the browser compatibilities and so on that go on. Just because you're using on Android does not mean they have everything. They might be using Firefox and so on. And you have to keep all those things in mind. But the good thing is that you could always ask yourself these questions based on knowledge. Like, do you need some specific features from the platform? How much processing power do you need? If you have already a mobile optimized website, your life is going to be much easier because you don't need to do so much. And yeah, as always, who is your target user? What are their internet quality of their phone storage and so on, things like that. And make up your own mind. And then, as some of you have might noticed, there are a lot of things missing, and there are a lot of points that I did not cover, and that I moved them to backlog. And those things are usually, yeah, we could go much deeper in the service worker part. The push notifications are missing, app shell, background, saying the caching. I just gave you some pseudocode of caching, what to do, but we could dig into the caching API and so on. And of course, because it's branding and so on, you might want to have your own installation banner and how to do. There's an event for that. And I'm not sure, maybe Workbox is a service worker helper library from Google that helps you with Google Analytics. And then, yeah, I don't know, just let me know. And then we can open the questions. Wow.